Scooptober? Scooby-Topia!
Hey, welcome to the month of Scooptober. Hopefully you're having a nice spooky season so far. To kick things off, I thought I'd start with a special combination I was originally going to do like 3 years or so ago. Then a huge creator did a video too similar around the exact same time I was about to, so back burner it went. Right. But it's Scooptober, and we deserve some real frights, because a night without frights is no delight this month. Today we're looking at one of the most iconic and classic original series episodes of Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? A night of fright is no delight, but also we're looking at the supernatural episode, Scoobynatural, where Sam and Dean find themselves in that very episode, but not quite. I've been a fan of Supernatural since I was a child and it started first airing. I've seen those early best episodes more times than necessary, and I even stuck through and watched every last episode of those final seasons. Last year, I even gave the anime series a fresh watch and really liked that. Shout out to her. So I think I should be fairly decently qualified to take you down both of these roads. By the way, the Patreon is now open, so you can support the channel directly and get access to videos like this early there, as well as sometimes a bonus video not on YouTube or things like that. Let's carry on, my wayward son. First, to unpack why Where Are You's classic is worth the focus before we get ahead of ourselves.
The ghosts, the witches, and the mysteries are back. Now collect all of these awesome Scooby-Doo adventures on DVD. Join the gang as they unravel the creepiest cases ever in Scooby-Doo's creepiest capers. Scooby-Doo. Collect them all on DVD from Warner Brothers Family Entertainment. Scooby-Dooby-Doo!
Season 1, Episode 16 of Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? A Night of Fright is no delight. Originally aired January 10th, 1970. The first to air that year, though obviously still produced in 69. As iconic as it is, it's seen many a home video release, such as 1998's classic Scooby-Doo The Haunted House Hang Up VHS, or in 2000 the iconic Creepiest Capers release. The plot, loosely inspired by a certain Agatha Christie novel, is also similar to Hanna-Barbera's The Flintstones episode, Season 5, Episode 7, A Haunted House Is Not a Home, which aired 6 years prior. Iconography continues influence outside of Scoobynatural's effort that we'll get to later though. Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed includes one of the giggling green ghosts in the museum. Honestly, a pretty scary reinterpretation. And Mystery Incorporated also has the ghosts on display as well as in a video game in Wrath of the Krampus. Season 1 Episode 13 of Be Cool Scooby-Doo, Where There's a Will There's a Wraith, is also a modern reinterpretation of the episode from 2015. Shout out to Amazon randomly restocking the first DVD set with the episode recently at retail price instead of the crazy out-of-print prices, of which I was just about to buy that. In this episode, they even keep the ghost designs and some names fairly similar. I'm going to pass on touching on the episode today, it's just a really long video already, but I'm glad Be Cool is finally retroactively getting its flowers these days. A villain from this classic episode also returns for revenge in the 2014 direct-to-video movie Franken-Creepy, which I covered last Scooptober. It's overall just a memorable episode that everyone loves, so let's see what makes this one shine so bright. The episode opens with perhaps one of the most iconic locations you could visualize. This gorgeous mansion on this hill, secluded out on an island. My childhood Scooby guidebook, I have a video on it and other books you can go check out, has an entire section dedicated to the layout of this place. That's how iconic this thing is. The gang are out in this storm on a boat headed to the mansion, here for the reading of a will. Scooby specifically has inherited a fortune from Colonel Beauregard Sanders, who has split his $1 million between our talking dog and 4 relatives. As for Scooby's presence, he rescued Colonel Sanders from a fish pond a few years prior, apparently, though I can't imagine the danger of a fish pond. First, yes, Colonel Sanders, like the founder of KFC, except not KFC, but yes, KFC did exist by 1969, as it was founded in 1952 and well known by this time. Glad we had this talk. It's also thought the Colonel may be a reference to this Confederate general, as the name Beauregard became popular throughout the American South due to the respect for him there. Something we won't see as much of in Scoobynatural because it is weird in the modern day is just how much this episode is obsessed with the Confederacy. This is one of the most Americana episodes of the original series that you can find, and That, of course, is why it is one of the ones referenced in my video on Scooby's Americana. I had no idea what any of it was as a kid, but it's very overbearing when you look at it as a whole. They make it to the doorstep, but up top, someone seems to be peeking out this creepy window. Osgood Creeps opens the door to welcome them in, and we get a look at old Beauregard on the wall. Mr. Creeps introduces himself as the late Colonel's attorney, and says his partner Mr. Crawls couldn't be here.
Creeps and crawls? They sure picked the right lawyers for this job.
Tonight, we are listening to a record Beauregard made for the 5 inheritors to listen to, where we hear his own voice, provided by Shaggy's voice actor Casey Kasem, and meet the family. We have Cousin Simple, Nephew Norble, Sweet Cousin Maldehyde, Cousin Slicker, and of course, Scooby-Doo. He explains each of them will receive an equal share of the inheritance providing they stay a full night here in the family mansion.
That shouldn't be too hard.
The house is haunted.
See, when you say things like that, you get consequences. So anyone who gets scared off will no longer receive an inheritance, and it goes to the others who do. With the Colonel signing off, Mr. Creeps says he'll return in the morning to see if anyone remains. And for the eerie chime of the grandfather clock, we get an audio clip of good old Big Ben's bell, which I never realized. As things stand, from here you'd assume we have a lot of potential suspects. Mr. Creeps says he's leaving, but is he? Mr. Crawls never showed up, and 4 family members who each have incentive to scare the others away and get a bigger share, or all of the money. As far as suspect lists go in Scooby, this starts pretty strong. Cousin Slicker, also voiced by Kasem, decides it's time for bed, and Fred and Daphne look like they could use the rest. And so the long night in the creepy mansion begins, all 3 boys rooming together in comfortable pajamas, and Shaggy can't go 5 seconds without pulling out a snack. While Scoob heads to take a bath, rare for a dog, Shaggy adds some spice to his meal, including fish food, pissing the hell out of the fish. First, valid crash out on behalf of the fish, because why? Second, who's taking care of the fish? They didn't bring it, and the Colonel died. Who has been the caretaker of this guy? The attorneys? Scoob, meanwhile, is enjoying his bath, but he's such a dog that he forgot to take his dang collar off. And as punishment, this green ghost makes a first appearance. He then gets a terrible shock as the wall opens and the tub slides back, dumping him down a chute and falling into cool right before a giggling green spook that actually is really freaky even as it is. His horrible shaking is understandable here, running off and leaving a bear-shaped hole behind. Poor guy runs all the way back to the room and tries to explain what just happened, but Fred takes it so unseriously that he momentarily switches back to his day clothes, just to switch back to his sleepwear. The bath, meanwhile, seems normal, bolted down even, so both dismiss his claims and the night must carry on. As the clock chimes again, the giggling green ghost floats out of it, up the stairs and through the mansion, finding its first victim in Cousin Simple. And the intensity kind of really sells the fear factor here. Loud as it is, the others all hear and everyone heads to check out the room, finding an empty bed and his nightcap. Also present is a message written on the mirror, reading, "The first is gone, the rest will go, unless you leave the island, and row, row, row. Signed, the Phantom Shadow." Love the little swirl accent he added. Cousin Slicker decides they should merely return to their rooms with locked doors. Much good a lock does for a ghost. But the gang do put together a fake Scooby dummy to throw it off. And honestly, as a kid, the dummy here was way scarier than anything else in the episode. While the trio will wait to grab the Phantom Shadow with an unlocked door, the boys have decided to safely wait outside instead on this pipe. Little do they know, the Phantom is aware, pushing the pipe and leaving the boys swinging, resulting in Velma trying to save them only for her to get got with them, and I love her stupid scream. So now all of them are just swinging back and forth, screaming in total chaos. This was always so funny growing up. Loved this insanity. Finally, the pipe breaks and they get flung into a cave, thank goodness.
I told you I'd save you.
They investigate the cave, seeming to be a secret passage under the mansion, and it seems the Phantom Shadow has left footprints. But why would a phantom leave footprints?
Dirty feet?
This whole exchange and trio is so excellent, like when Velma forces Shaggy to lead them.
But like, what if the Phantom Shadow grabs me?
That's the chance I'll have to take.
Thank you for your noble sacrifice, Velma. Even the whole bit after is perfect, one of my favorite scenes starting with the pipe. Further in, they find a ton of Civil War relics, because of course they do, what else would be in here? The Colonel apparently was a huge collector, checking out a whole wagon of Confederate uniforms. One starts attacking, but thankfully we have Velma, and god, here she goes with another great demented scream. They spend a minute getting chased by this thing until they get cornered in an elevator and Scooby stands up to it, revealing it to just be a duck that's here for some reason. Velma decides to find out where the elevator goes to, coming out at Cousin Slicker's room. However, they find his bed empty outside of a nightcap yet again. Meeting back with Fred and Daff, they find all 4 relatives have now gone missing outside of their nightcaps, leaving only Scooby behind now.
Wow, what a night for a Fright.
She said the thing! Suddenly, though, they hear some eerie organ music that really sets the foul mood. The gang find the organ, but nobody there to play it. Only the music book, which seems to say, feed the organ and watch the floor. And since you can't feed an organ, only play it, our resident ham gets himself prepared for a performance. Sounds kinda horrible. The gang watching the floor with no results, because they should be watching the walls instead, increasingly closing in on them until Scoob does a whole marathon across the keys. Thankfully, they realize feed isn't the word, it's the musical notes F-E-E-D, and playing them does in fact open a secret passage in the floor. Down inside, they find catacombs that seem to be the home of 4 human-shaped coffins, and 1 empty dog-shaped coffin. Worse, the human coffins open and reveal the whole family united together in death. And double worse, here comes the Phantom Shadow, now a green ghost. And hate to say it, triple worse, there's 2. The gang grab the shocked Scoob and head out. Don't mind the attempted kill here. The boys being chased all the way back into the regular mansion area. Just as they think they're safe in the chandelier, a ghost pops in to cut down their reality, dropping through the floor and into the wine cellar. And one of the ghosts is down here waiting already, so they prepare to start shooting him with the wine and get the hell out of there. The trio meanwhile are being chased as well, Velma stopping to answer a ringing phone, then handing it off to a very confused ghost. Somehow the other ghost got over here to share a bicycle built for Boo, pardon the borrowed pup joke, and the boys dash in another room. Upon opening, we find the Confederate closet has been raided, mixed with drag, so very mixed signals right now. The lady and gentleman dance the ghosts around, play F-E-E-D, and dump them down. Everyone reunited, Velma notices some green on Shaggy's hand having rubbed off from the dance, which sparks an idea for Fred. They prepare a trap starting with a fan, soap suds on the floor, a spring-loaded ironing board, and washing machine. They demonstrate with Scooby, must be an awfully high-powered fan to blow him even with the soap, and he does in fact spring from the board into the machine. Seems simple enough. Fred and the girls will be the bait, Scooby in charge of the fan, which seems like it's just asking for trouble from the jump. Sure enough, as they run in with the ghosts, Scoob misinterprets the signal and turns the fan on too soon, and somehow managed to do it in reverse. Why is that even an option? Pulling the board and machine to heat and resulting in a flying contraption with Shaggy, and yet they head right for the ghosts, scaring the daylights out of them enough to run out, while the boys manage to fly out the window, aim back down, and head right into the tunnel again where the elevator lets out. The ghosts get a terrible spook and try to run back in, but the boys manage to fly through the door before it closes, chasing the ghosts all through the house until they finally fall into the washing machine as planned. All washed up, it of course was Mr. Creeps and Mr. Crawls, trying to scare all of the heirs away so they could keep control of the inheritance. They scared off the cousins, but identical dummies in the coffins to try and scare the gang, but no such luck. Scooby is presented with his inherited fortune as the sole survivor of the night, but the $1 million is all in what was then worthless Confederate money, so it was all for nothing. They still have one last spook though, a haunted bone floating above in a weird moment of real supernatural events in the OG series. Nothing Scooby can't handle though, for once. And that's A Night of Fright is No Delight. I think it's pretty obvious why this might be one of the best episodes of the original series. Immediately, the atmosphere and vibes you get are easily some of the most memorable with a perfect location. I could stare forever at this page from my guidebook dissecting the place. It's kind of impressive how this house is built. I don't know how anybody kept it straight on what went where. Everything about the location as it goes on continues to be the most pure form of classic Scooby in every way, down to how much the Confederacy and American South show up in this episode, which would continue constantly in the series up to the 80s. But it's not just the perfect haunted house atmosphere. Although some of the visuals and frights of this episode are some of the best, the comedy is honestly at its best here as well. All of the moments with Velma and the boys, her deranged screams, the banter the three of them all have off of each other, it's all perfect. I've said it before, but people act like Velma in Mystery Incorporated being sarcastic and kind of mean or pushy was out of character, but look at this episode. This girl is hilarious, mean as hell, a nasty girl who will eat you up and spit you out with pure sarcasm. Sometimes she's even just rude, like in the previous video I did, and that's what makes the friendship with these guys so real. They do bicker and fight and tease each other like actual friends. They feel like they are living and breathing, and that's why the update in Mystery Incorporated works as well. People just whitewash or flanderize the personalities of these characters in their minds, or don't really remember what they were like in the older episodes. I really can't take people seriously when they say it's not the same, or that they weren't mean to each other, the way that friends are mean to each other and take jabs at each other when they are comfortable. And this episode makes some of the funniest uses of it. Velma and Shaggy here are one of the funniest duos you can get. As mentioned earlier, the mystery here also works quite well, because you do have so many different potential suspects that this could be. Even after all of the family gets taken, it still doesn't necessarily rule them out, because those are ultimately dummies anyway, even if we don't know that yet. You have a large number of people that genuinely could have done this, at least most of them. Sweet cousin Maldahide looks a little physically fragile, and everyone has a real motive to do it. Probably one of the easiest jobs as well. Just successfully scare everyone off, and you really don't have to worry about legal repercussions, which unfortunately for them, the ghosts could not do. Like I said in the previous video, it's nice to see some of the messier animation here that you don't always remember or notice as much in the original series as well, which also adds that beautiful human element, just like the obvious hand-painted backgrounds. And you get so turned around with all of the locations, not to mention how memorable the ending is on top of all of those leading up to it, that it makes it one of the most memorable overall stories of the show. And of course, you have the giggling green ghosts with the phantom shadows here, where the sounds they make genuinely are kind of unsettling, and I think deserve to be among some of the most recognized and iconic villains. Even if they are more simple at first glance, they just work really well, and the chains associated with spirits being tied to this earth add just an extra little flavor. It's really no wonder we've seen callbacks to these villains and this episode so often. If you're looking for the genuine best of the best, this has to be up there. I'm shocked it wasn't on the 50th anniversary set over some of the others, but of course today, we're also here to look at one of the other returns to this episode in a more recent piece of media, for a crossover that definitely hits another level of classic Scooby familiarity.
Thursday, March 29th.
The Dean Cave.
The Winchesters.
Give this bad boy a test run.
Get animated.
We should be trying to get out of here, and instead you're hanging out with Marmaduke.
How dare you? Oh, Daphne could do so much better.
Supernatural. All new Thursday, March 29th on the CW.
So, where does Scoobynatural come into play? For the uninitiated, Supernatural is an American TV series that premiered September 13th, 2005. Created by Eric Kripke, the show starred Jared Padalecki and Jensen Ackles as Sam and Dean Winchester, two brothers who go up against the Supernatural as hunters. It ran for 15 seasons, 327 hour-long episodes, lasting until 2020, and I watched every second of it. Did you know that today's subject wasn't the show's first try at animation? As alluded to before, in 2011, a Japanese anime series Supernatural the Animation aired for 22 half-hour episodes, somewhat adapting the first two seasons as well as adding original content. Padalecki reprised his role for the dub, and I actually just freshly watched the show last year when I was craving some Supernatural. It's really pretty good, I liked it a lot. A shame the Blu-ray is out of print. Today, we need to skip about 7 years though. By the time of the 13th season in 2018, the idea of a crossover with Scooby-Doo had been on the minds of the writers for a while, which wouldn't be so hard to truly do, with both properties owned by Warner Brothers, and also the natural link of the Supernatural. The creative team had even wanted to just have an animated character in general, which would be too difficult. At one point, executive producer Andrew Dabb received a call from friend Jeremy Adams over at Warner Brothers Animation, asking if they had ever thought of this particular crossover, making it seem like it might finally be time for this long-awaited dream, as the corporate overlord said to go ahead. This was in November of 2016, and by January, the show had been renewed early, so they decided to forge ahead, immediately getting to work on the script, noting that they were trusted to do it right without too much interference. On the animation side, Spike Brandt would direct the episode, having been already very familiar with the franchise, including being a showrunner for Mystery Incorporated, and Warner Brothers Animation of course provided the visuals in the typical style of the direct-to-video movies at the time. Likewise for using the voice actors established currently. What Scooby fans might find interesting though is the writing team. Previously I mentioned that Jeremy Adams brought this to the team at Supernatural, and he did serve as one of the two writers. His other works for Scooby you might know are direct-to-video films The Sword and the Scoob and Return to Zombie Island. Yeah. And the co-writer? That's Jim Krieg. Having been the co-showrunner and developer for What's New Scooby-Doo, and having written a huge amount of films and episodes for the franchise, he was basically overseeing and controlling the Scooby-Doo franchise at this point. And this is where the disconnect with what fans wanted comes. See, Jim Krieg loves classic Scooby, emulated in What's New. Classic Scooby does not have anything threatening, it doesn't have anything supernatural, it is always and forever a man in a mask, and Krieg believed this was the only way Scooby should exist. No exceptions, including Zombie Island. Why was this a problem? If you've seen my video on the other Scooby-Doo movie trilogy, you know why already. And if you haven't, you should go check it out. It's a fascinating story that unfolds, but I'll give you what you need here. This movie trilogy consisted of Scooby-Doo and the Curse of the 13th Ghost, Return to Zombie Island, and Happy Halloween. The first two are sequels to the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo and the original Zombie Island, both of which famously have real monsters, and both of which are highly loved. 13 Ghosts never even got an ending, which people desperately had been craving for decades. decades, so a lot to live up to. However, Creed believes Scooby does not have a need for the supernatural, and so the two most iconic true supernatural Scooby stories got sequels that are not supernatural, and imply the originals were also not supernatural and that everything can be retconned into being explained. How did that go over? Return to Zombie Island, especially written by Adams, might be one of the most hated entries in the franchise, which hit immediately. People do not like this one for the most part. Is it fair? Who can say? Again, I have a whole video breaking down the history and mess of that trilogy if you want to focus in on that, but that's what makes the irony here so amazing. Creed and Adams made one of the most hated anti-supernatural Scooby franchise entries ever made, and at about the same time made Scoobynatural, the most real, dark, and supernatural that Scooby has ever been. Everything that Creed goes against. And when you know it, unlike the other recent works at the time, this one was critically acclaimed and loved. So, you know, we'll save any further thoughts for later. For now, let's get into what this episode actually is. Season 13 of Supernatural, Episode 16, originally aired March 29th, 2018. It opens up in live action with a fairly normal start, Sam and Dean fighting something and saving the life of a pawn shop owner. They meet Jay, a real estate developer who owns most of the area, and as thanks, the shop owner lets them take something they want for free, and Dean chooses a TV. While Sam struggles to find anything about cursed objects attacking people like they just experienced, Dean sets up his new entertainment room, the centerpiece being the TV. But as he turns it on, it seems something's off, and they get zapped into the world of animation. Even the car has been transported with them somehow. So they get to driving, coming upon a malt shop. This is one of the major ways the episode is already diverging from being super faithful to the Where Are You episode. As you'll remember, the mansion is secluded on an island that they had to use a boat to get to, no malt shop involved. But we're starting here this time with the mansion being within driving distance, which does make sense for the sake of making the crossover easier, simplifying getting from point A to point B, but it is a pretty big divergence. Obviously, when they pull up next to the mystery machine, they realize where they are.
We're in Scooby-Doo.
They enter the shop and see the gang doing some classic throwback dancing, which makes Dean totally starstruck, being very protective of them toward his dismissive brother. Growing up the way they did, Scooby being on TV was basically one of Dean's only constants in his childhood, so he does not play about them.
Except Fred, he's a wad.
He points out that they basically do the same thing, comparing Angel Castiel to their own talking dog. No comment. They introduce themselves and the gang immediately accept them, and they say they're celebrating Scooby being left a fortune by an old Southern colonel that recently passed away, who he saved from a fish pond. And our first sign that something is off is finding out how he died this time.
Cancer.
The brothers step away, Sam pointing out the lack of words on the newspaper and Dean's lack of urgency, while the gang prepare for a mystery. Dean takes the opportunity, being mystery solvers as well, offering to join. The boys prepare some road food, and Dean is very much excited to try and cartoonishly eat a ton of it as well.
Look how big my mouth is!
They prepare to head out, again by road this time, and Dean goads Fred into a dick measuring contest with their vehicles. Losing just intensifies Dean's personal hate for Fred. It seems someone in a trench coat is following close behind though. Somehow Dean recognizes the episode immediately, which is funny given that not only did they drive here, but the mansion is drastically different. Most of the mansion design in general in fact being borrowed from Legend of the Phantasaur instead. As we get to the real recreation of the episode, huge shout out to Steven Stanton as Cosgood Creeps. He's so close you might almost think they reuse the audio sometimes. We even get a KFC joke. Fred Tatasciore as Colonel Sanders also is remarkable in sounding like Casey Kasem here, expertly recreating the original dialogue. The whole bit is basically a full play-by-play of the original scene. Sam finds all of this stupid, especially the haunted house, but Velma insists it's not really haunted and pretty normal. Dean stops Sam from referencing their being from a C word, insisting on keeping their general innocence while here. Mr. Creeps does his goodbye bit, and we switch the dialogue about heading to bed from Cousin Slicker to Cousin Simple, who never spoke in the original episode. Dean tries to get his childhood crush to bunk with him, but no dice.
Oh, Dean, boys and girls don't sleep in the same room, silly. Come on, Velma.
The guys all don their comfy sleepwear, and this has to be some deja vu for Frank Welker as the only returning actor. Dean gets quite a kick out of his comfortable nightwear himself, and the girls have some girl talk, Daphne creating lesbian erasure by insinuating big lugs are Velma's thing when she gets all tsundere about Sam. As it's meant to be, a phantom shadow-looking spirit comes calling for Cousin Simple, but this time the much scarier phantom has a knife. Back in their room, Dean explains they're about to find Cousin Simple missing, but it's just the lawyer, and right on cue, they hear a scream and run. However, they find Cousin Simple still in his bed, but when Daphne touches him, blood starts pouring from him. Dean, very confused, and Sam confirming this is a real dead body. Cousin Simple has actually been killed. I don't know if I can show this, so I'm not risking it, but you get the point.
Jinkies! Jeepers!
Zoinks! Ruh-roh!
Son of a bitch.
The gang not knowing how to respond to such a thing, Fred remains jovial about the mystery, leaving the brothers further turned off. With the gang off looking for clues, the brothers put together that this is not right, and if this guy could die for real, so can they, and so can the gang. As Velma says there's no such thing as ghosts, a figure outside the window makes its way over, Fred trapping the guy so that Dean can attack, uncovering him to reveal Castiel, who they introduce to the gang.
Sam, Dean, this dog is talking.
Kaz explains he got back to the bunker, walked in on them in the show on the TV, then got zapped in just like they did, and followed them here. They realized the sparks from the zap were like what they experienced earlier in the pawn shop, realizing it might be connected. As staff wonders who really killed Cousin Simple, the lights go off and the air cold, a scream ringing out. Looking around, they see some bloody action behind a door as all of them shut, and the much more detailed and scarier Phantom finally appears. The boys jumping into Cass's arms, but the thing just goes back into the wall, which Velma does her best to try and explain. They check in the room it came from and find the very graphically, horrendously gruesome, decapitated, and dismembered body of Cosgood Creeps, who is supposed to be the Phantom, which is really not good. Once again, while Dean feels sick at the sight, the gang are unfazed by the gore. Dean points out the ghosts behaved exactly like the real ones that they usually deal with, believing the cartoon now to be haunted. Fred, per usual, suggests splitting up, which Dean is not for, so Sam suggests they stick together, but Velma puts him down for being scared while also still complimenting him. They decide to follow the gang for now, Dean volunteering to go with that, which means he's stuck with Fred as well. Velma, meanwhile, is very excited to go with Sam, which leaves Cass with the boys. Velma continues to make moves on Sam, continuously bringing up his broad shoulders, which he calls out and makes her blush. He decides to break the rules and say ghosts are real, along with everything else, and that they hunt them. However, she does not believe him. They both discover a clue with the toy chest covered in ectoplasm, according to Sam, all of the toys floating up to attack, which still does not make her believe. Meanwhile, Dean quizzes Daff on her ideal guy, and she just describes Fred. He then notices a book the other two can't that clearly isn't painted into the background, trying to open a secret passage with it, which does dump them through a trap door. Again, we're basically not even in the original episode anymore by this point. We have fully stepped into something new here, between the rest of the family disappearing and having a trapdoor that is entirely different from the one in the original, though I do appreciate the joke about the book not being part of the background. They fall down slides in the dark, and with the lights returned, the Phantom is waiting. The boys, meanwhile, feel the cold as the Phantom also is stalking them, which sets us off into a classic musical chase scene set to the Where Are You original theme song. We even have the revolving doors joke here. We also get a little Scrappy reference. Enjoy, he was meant to be in the 13th Ghost movie and then they were denied usage of him, so he is effectively banned in regular Scooby material beyond jokes, sadly. Dean checks out Daphne's ass here, and it is kind of crazy how detailed they made it, actually. The chase ends with everyone falling over each other, and they hide in a room while Daph and the others insist they need to stop the ghost. Velma continues to try and say ghosts aren't real, but her breath turns cold and her glasses freeze, along with the windows as the lights go out, and the Phantom barges in. Fred charges it, but he gets knocked over and actually hurt, while the girls are lifted and thrown as well. Shaggy then gets picked up, thrown through the window and over the balcony. Sam and Dean get some iron to attack it with, getting it to leave for now and freeing the others. Fred is shockingly left with a real bloody nose for the first time, and they realize Shaggy is just barely hanging on, falling as Scoob chases to save him, followed by Cass. Even with their best efforts, he hits his arm weird as he falls to the ground, and he starts crying out in genuine pain. As the others rush over, Cass informs them his arm is broken, another thing the gang has never had to experience. As lost as Shaggy is, Fred and Velma also struggle to comprehend what happened to them, while Shaggy's arm starts to change color. While they try to fix him up, Sam decides they have to be honest. Dean explaining this isn't like the other ghosts they faced, but the gang don't comprehend it not being a guy in a costume. As it sets in, Velma starts to shake, her mind beginning to break.
I thought I was blind without my glasses, but I was just blind.
Fred then just starts banging his head in frustration.
If there are ghosts, that means there's an afterlife. Heaven, hell. Am I going to hell?
Maybe you are, Daphne. Maybe you are.
We told you every freaking time, but did you ever listen to Scoob and me? No!
We do.
Dean tries to calm them down, giving a pep talk about all the things they've done so well, although he does break continuity and start describing things they canonically have not experienced yet as of this episode, which has to be confusing for them. Even Sam exposes he has at least a little Scooby knowledge to join in with. It seems to work, but they do remain skeptical of their ability to help, so Sam opens their trunk to reveal plenty of weapons and measures to take this thing down with. Dean is against Velma with a gun, good call, but Fred insists he wants to help with how amazing the brothers are, finally turning Dean around on him a little.
But we can help. We have to.
You're right, you can.
Fred finishes up a classic trap, covering all but one exit with salt, where the Phantom will enter and trip on an iron chain, activating an axe that holds coconuts. Those will then roll and trip him, sending him down soap and into a washing machine like the original episode, secured by iron chains. The boys and Cass are of course sent out as bait, which easily works, and Cass picks the boys up to run toward the trap. The iron chain does actually stop and hurt the Phantom, but the coconuts work on the boys instead, winding up in the washing machine themselves while the Phantom remains loose. Dean knew it wouldn't work though with no faith in Fred, so he has them initiate Plan B, Operation Bookworm, leading the Phantom to the library, while Scoob tosses books at him to get him over. He then pulls the book, sending the Phantom down the trapdoor and slide. When the Phantom comes to, it finds itself trapped in a salt circle, begging to be let out. The intimidating ghost then grows smaller until only a little boy is left, who says he didn't want to hurt anyone. He says the bad man makes him the man named Jay, as in the real estate developer they met at the shop. The boy explains that when he died, his soul was tied to a pocket knife his dad gave him, and Jay found and began to use him. Sometimes the boy gets upset and loses control, but all he wants is to see his dad again. The guys understand and feel empathy for the kid, letting him know it's not his fault, and they can set him free if they go back to the real world.
Cross my heart and hope that...
Dean checks in on the gang, who seem to be furthering their mental breakdowns.
I could get the shotgun!
I could get 2 shotguns!
They realize they can't leave the gang like this, and ask the boy for a favor. They reopen the doors, and the gang freak the hell out seeing the Phantom tied up. So the brothers explain they were wrong, Velma was right, and this was never a real ghost. Dean has them go do their thing, and Velma unmasks the Phantom to reveal Cosgood Creeps. Everything was just wires, projectors, and dummies filled with corn syrup. Mr. Creeps wanted everyone out to keep the money. However, the money is worthless, all being Confederate, so it was all for nothing.
There's no such thing as the supernatural.
Castiel also heals Shaggy's broken arm, so they don't have to lose their innocence with that either. And Dean decides Fred isn't so bad. He does have a dramatic goodbye with Daff though, and Cass says goodbye to his new cowardly friends. Also...
Those shoulders. Jinkies.
Yeah, that was controversial when this aired, and I can't say I love it either. Plus, the girls are canonically underage here, so the romance in general is weird, off-putting, unlikable. The gang head off, and the boy sends the guys back to our world. They then get to work on their promise, destroying the TV to find the pocket knife, the boy showing himself as they promise to take care of the bad man, and finally set his soul free. Just as the shop owner is about to sell his place to Jay, the brothers walk in, Dean now with an ascot. They explain how Jay has been driving people away with a ghost to buy their property dirt cheap, planting the pocket knife in something the ghost could possess so they would be desperate to sell, including their TV. But now the spirit is free. To seal the deal, they hacked his financials and reported that he doesn't pay taxes. The cops already here.
Would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for those meddling kids.
He said it. Scooby-Doo.
And that's Scoobynatural. So yeah, way better than Return to Zombie Island and the likes, despite the same team. I had stopped being as involved with Scooby at the time, but this brought me back for a good minute finally. I was crazy for this episode. I really loved this thing back then. And of course, it's made for me practically. I love Scooby and I love Supernatural. It was like the best day ever for me when this dropped. Something only Mystery Incorporated had come close to in the modern day of the franchise that I had always wanted is a Scooby story that's more for adults, more mature, which I know is not for everyone. There were a lot of Scooby fans who lean more conservative, let's say, who were not happy about this episode, with the curse words and the gore and the violence. But Scooby has a pretty massive adult following as well. I mean, that's exclusively who watches anything I put out, so I know that for a fact. And as much as I love the original episodes, and some safe, wholesome fun, Mystery Incorporated's real drama and stakes awaken something in me that has never gone back to sleep. Seeing these characters be explored with real depth, face real danger, have emotional experiences, and grow, it was really special and important to me. It was a huge formative part part of my life watching that show unfold, which I know a lot of those Scooby fans also did not like. There are a lot that hate that show with a passion, which couldn't be me, but that's why, ever since, I've really yearned for a chance to see the franchise be explored with a more mature theme aimed at adults. That's why I was naively so excited for the series Velma initially when that was all that we knew about it. It was a more mature Scooby series for adults. It sounded like exactly what I was looking for on paper, silly as that was of me. Ultimately, I didn't really like that show. It has a lot of problems, which I talked about in a video on the first season that no longer exists. Unfortunately, I of course also talked about the second season in 2024, and I wasn't outright hostile toward it and didn't repeat the things I had already said that were negative about it, which famously got me cancelled and branded a bad person permanently because I wasn't mean and nasty enough to a cartoon that I didn't even actually like. Hello to my permanently turned off comment section, where what I don't know can't hurt me anymore. Scoobynatural, however, is such a dream because it really is exactly what I want. Mostly. Maybe not the extreme gore. That's actually kind of gnarly even to me. When I say I want a really good adult Scooby series, I don't mean I want the characters saying the F word. I don't mean I want to see body parts chopped up. That is not what I mean. I really don't enjoy that in adult animation. I really just want an even more mature mystery incorporated, honestly. That would be really fantastic. But this gets so close to feeling like it could explore what I want, just for a little taste. It's kind of surreal to see these characters and situations that they are put in here, and I can never get enough of it, which is really ironic given that the team who made it also did make the most despised parts of the modern franchise around the exact same time. I mean no ill will toward any of them, it's just interesting how wildly different the projects were received, and I think the huge acclaim for this shows that people do appreciate fresh takes on the gang. But I do think that also comes with the caveat that it still has to have that nostalgia. They do still have to look and feel like the gang that we know. They have to sound like them instead of a celebrity. It still has to have an essence of what made them so special in the original show. The wheel can be reinvented, but you can't turn it into an entirely different wheel. And this one really hits that sweet nostalgia spot exactly the way it was hoping to. Is it perfect? No, I do have issues here and there with characterization, like Velma, which I really do not favor the representation or personality for here. I really was not in favor of or liking Kate Micucci as Velma by this time in general. I was still very bitter about the recasting of the character and feeling like she was just being herself rather than feeling like Velma. And I still think that is somewhat true of her performance in this episode. But I will say that she has grown on me in the years since and has grown into the character better in later performances. There's a small complaint about continuity, be it general franchise or the episode they are emulating. I wish the mansion at least was like the original on an island, but I don't think the franchise has ever really cared about that stuff enough to make a big deal out of it. I do think it feels like the gang are kind of belittled while also trying to respect them, which also is a bit odd with what they are trying to balance. This is the irony of Krieg hating Supernatural Scooby. You can feel him saying they should not be exposed to or know about it, and his agenda about that here. That's basically what is happening. And also the brothers having crushes on the girls is weird. Like, I understand having a crush on a character from when you were a kid, but you have to not be acting on it if you supernaturally get the chance while a grown man. But none of these complaints really take away from enjoying the episode, providing you can handle a little bit of gruesome visuals in a couple of places. I really do think this one is a piece of required viewing from the modern era for Scooby-Doo fans. At least once to give it a shot, even if you don't know the TV show it's crossing over with. I bet a large amount of people didn't know a lot of the crossovers the gang have had over the many decades, and that's never taken away from anything. But maybe I'm just brainwashed. After all, most people seemed convinced I was defending the Velma show, and that I was glazing it, so what do I know? Maybe liking this episode is yet another terrible controversial opinion. Let's wrap this one up. Well, that is A Night of Fright is No Delight, as well as Scoobynatural, to try and kick off the month of Scoobtober with something special. I hope you enjoyed taking a look at both a classic original series episode, as well as a more modern entry in the franchise made nearly 50 years later. For the most part, I think there is a lot to enjoy in all 5 of the decades we have to work with when it comes to the franchise. And even though things are mostly looking grim for the future right now, I still look forward to the crumbs that we will be getting. This Where Are You episode is definitively always going to be one of the greatest and most memorable episodes, and I think it was a pretty obvious choice for the Supernatural boys to take a crack at. The Phantom Shadows will definitely go down as some of the most iconic villains. The location will remain one of the most memorable, and it really has everything going right for it. Likewise, even with some oddities or things I disagree with, Scoobynatural easily goes down as one of my favorite modern entries in the franchise, especially since it's just a neat little one-off rather than a full dedicated project. The negatives don't have enough time to be overbearing, and the positives are around just long enough to really enjoy them. I do hope that one day, unlikely as it is right now, we can see another franchise franchise entry that has the guts to be a little bit more mature. Zombie Island is mature, and it's the darling of the franchise. That's really what I'm asking for. Bring back some of that magic, the Mystery Incorporated magic. People clearly love those and want it just as much as I do, and I hope one day we can see it. Anyway, if you want to support the channel, there is now a Patreon. Patreon is only for those who specifically wish to support the channel by choice because they want to. All regular content will always be available for free as usual. A perk you will get if you choose to do so is that new videos like this will be available early there for those who want access sooner. Anyway, maybe I'll see you around. Scoobtober's not over. The chill is still in the air. We'll see. Bye.